Pentagon report on Afghan war finds very few gains in last 6 months. A Pentagon report on the last 6 months in Afghanistan portrays an Afghan government with limited credibility among its own people, a still active, if not growing insurgency, and an enormous reliance on American troops to train, outfit, and finance the country's defense forces for the foreseeable future. The report, released on Wednesday, is mandated by Congress every 6 months. It points to some small improvements, including an increased optimism among some Afghans about their government and the slowing of the insurgency in places where NATO troops have concentrated their efforts. But an array of measures suggest that the situation is little better overall than it was 6 months ago, despite enormous expenditures of effort, money, and lives by the American and international forces. This is, I think, a very serious and sober report, a senior Pentagon official said at a news briefing. For the last several years, we've seen this very steep increase in areas that the Taliban control, areas that feel threatened, the official said. People's perception of security was getting worse. That's leveling off somewhat. So in other words, what exactly is there to win in Afghanistan? And when will they know that they have won? And still, according to some of the report's diagrams, insurgent activity in the last 6 months has spread to several areas where it had not previously been a major factor. Many sections of the report are based on close analysis of the situation in more than 100 districts where NATO is concentrating its efforts. And, in other words, when NATO goes into one province, then the Taliban or the insurgents simply move to another province. In 92 districts assessed for their support of the Afghan government or their antagonism to it, not one supported the government, although the population was neutral in 44 districts. The number of districts sympathetic to the insurgency or supportive of it increased to 48 in March 2010 from 33 in December 2009. The majority of the people are on the fence, not that they oppose the government, the senior Pentagon official said. And their objective is to move those people who are on the fence in the direction of the government. And in areas where people are opposed to the government, move them at least onto the fence. Attitudes are a crucial component in a counterinsurgency, so that changes, while seemingly small, are significant, according to senior NATO officials in Kabul. Pulling in the opposite direction, however, was the Pentagon's assessment of the insurgency, which it found to be tenacious, with robust means of sustaining its operations in terms of arms, financing, and recruits. So, in other words, how long can NATO or the United States stay in Afghanistan? At what great cost? Its operational capabilities and organizational reach are qualitatively and geographically expanding, the report said. It added that the strength and ability of shadow governance to discredit the authority and legitimacy of the Afghan government is increasing. The report notes that the insurgents have proved adept at returning after a military operation to clear them out and at regaining a foothold by using intimidation and selected executions. Far from winning the support of the population, the Taliban are seen by 52% of some Afghans as a chief cause of instability. And this perception provides the Afghan government with an opportunity to show itself as the protector of the people. But the government has yet to take advantage of that. In many places, the Afghan government is seen as very corrupt. The insurgency appears to have expanded its influence in several provinces in the northwest, where there has been little international troop presence in the past. The slow progress in training Afghan security forces has greatly concerned NATO, and especially the United States. Ultimately, the creation of a capable Afghan army and police force will hopefully enable international forces to leave Afghanistan. There is a lack of trainers, and some NATO countries that promise to contribute them have yet to send significant numbers to augment their current forces. Somehow, this seems like what they said in Vietnam. In the case of the police, many in the Afghan force are not only illiterate and poorly trained, but also hampered by a nearly non-existent judicial system, which undermines even their best efforts. Corruption, incompetence, and threats make it uncertain whether a person detained by the police will be held, prosecuted, or sentenced. Echoes of Vietnam. And even if Afghanistan can build an adequate security force, it seems very unlikely to be able to sustain that force. Congress appropriated $6.6 billion this year for the Afghan security forces to cover a 2-year period, and $155 million more is coming from other international donors. But the Pentagon report said that there was considerable concern about the Afghan government's ability to sustain the financing, and that as a result the Afghan Defense Forces would need considerable international support for the foreseeable future. In other words, Afghan Defense Forces will never really be able to stand on their own. There were a total of 133,500 international service members in Afghanistan on March 31st. 87,000 of them American troops, the report said. More American troops are due to arrive over the next 3 to 4 months, bringing the total number of American troops to 98,000. And attacks on NATO and Afghan forces are continuing daily. And yes, these are more signs. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. Revelation chapter 10, verse 5. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven. 6. And swore by him that lives forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, but there should be time no longer. 7. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he has declared to his servants the prophets. And these are more signs of the end times, transition days. There is a great transition going on all around the world every day.